The Subaru WRX has had an important purpose, but I fear that it's losing a key ingredient to its formula. I appreciate the new WRX because it is a remarkably good everyday sports sedan. A lot of performance cars, even sport compacts, require some noteworthy compromises. Some lack comfort, all-wheel drive, a family-friendly back seat, or a budget-friendly price. The WRX has, or had, all of those things. This generation was released just a few years ago, but the cost has been climbing to the point where I need to reevaluate it. If you enjoy fun, detailed car content, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the friendly folks at Royal on the Eastside in Bloomington, Indiana for letting me test drive a few WRXs over the years. Royal has been dedicated to the local community for over half a century. If you're in the market, check them out. So how much are we talking? Well, in the US, it's gonna start at about $37,000. This is because Subaru dropped the base trim for 2025, citing low volume, while the premium was also bumped up about $1,300. Disregarding the new TS, there are just a couple of changes year to year. First, every trim will now have Subaru's driver focus system, which monitors your face to see if you're paying attention. And second, a new Galaxy purple color, which I am very pleased to see. In this spec, it's not a bad deal. You're getting a good amount of car for the money. It's just more directly competing now with cars that offer better performance. Honestly, I think the more head-scratching move was replacing the already pricey TR with the 47 grand TS. A GR Corolla Core is considerably more affordable, and that's Golf R, Honda Civic Type R money. Two words: Honda dealerships suck, and so do Toyotas. Okay, the Honda buying experience is still tricky, but the Toyota can be found for MSRP, sometimes even below. It just really depends on what region you're in. Two more words: tuning potential. So you want to spend more on a car just because it could be as fast as its competition after you modify it? Pocket sand. Damn. I still want to drive the TS before coming to a conclusion, but the financial proposition used to be one of the WRX's biggest selling points. At least these are easier to find and dealers are more willing to discount them, but that's kind of a backhanded compliment. And man, that was really effective. At least this means I don't have to look at this cladding anymore. Did you just diss the cladding? No, it's perfect. It protects part of the car from rock chips when you're rallying. And how often are you rallying? Should have expected that one. Okay, if you can get past the looks, there are perks to having unpainted plastic, and the WRX remains a solid commuter. The trunk is relatively spacious. It does sacrifice a spare tire, but so do most of its foes, and I'd argue that the Subaru is more versatile than a lot of hatchbacks when you have all of the seats in place. The back seat is great. There's enough legroom for most adults and large child seats. I'm 6'3" and I can fit behind myself with only a little bit of rubbing. Up front, I like that Subaru gave these seats a little bit of bolstering for spirited driving without making them too narrow. There's also good support so you can drive this long distance no problem. Go with a limited and you'll even get lumbar adjustment. You also have decent storage so you can bring an arsenal of energy drinks and vapes. Most materials here outside of this nicely stitched flat bottom steering wheel are cheap but well constructed and sturdy feeling. I'd argue that this has better quality than the aforementioned Toyota, especially if you step up to the limited with the suede accenting and whatnot. You can even get a partially blue interior if you go with the TS. Another thing that makes this great for day-to-day use in and out of traffic is the good visibility here with the low beltline. Less ideal is the 11.6-inch infotainment system. It's slow and dated, but the layout is straightforward, and they didn't get rid of all of the physical controls. And because we're starting off the trims at the premium level, we have heated seats, proximity entry, wireless CarPlay, fog lights, and a windshield wiper de-icer. Combine that with the sometimes ridiculous Canadian car market, and I'd say this is an extremely attractive vehicle for folks up north. The next reason why this is such a good sport commuter is the suspension. On real, ignored Midwestern pavement, this is forgiving. Relative to cars like the GR Corolla or Hyundai Elantra N, this is less abusive. I don't want to overstate things, as it's not going to be as comfortable as a regular Impreza, but it's fairly smooth. And it gives you this soft suspension without adding a ton of body roll. You might thank the Boxer 4-cylinder for this, as it lowers the center of gravity, making stiffer springs not necessarily required. Under the hood, you're going to have a 2.4 liter with a turbocharger. This power plant is most happy in that mid-range, making for good passing power. You don't need to downshift as much as you might think, though they use a pretty close ratio gearbox. With 271 horsepower, this hasn't really been upped over the last 10-15 years, though for this kind of car, it still feels plenty potent. 0 to 60 comes up in about 5.5 seconds if you beat the absolute snot out of it. If you're gentle, I've gotten it to 60 in around 6. This feels like a much quicker car when compared to a Civic SI. Now, it might not have the angry DNA of the STI, but it does have some of that rally personality baked in. I think you get that with the grumbly sound of the Boxer and the notchy manual transmission. It feels like I'm operating construction equipment every time I shift it, and I think that kind of fits the vibes of what Subaru is going for. The clutch is easy to modulate. You can equip it with a short throw shifter to make it feel more race car, though I do think it's still a little clunky. The pedal box is well laid out for heel-toe downshifts. You don't have any sort of auto rev matching, so this does reward effort, though if you want to put in less work, Subaru does make a continuously variable transmission for this thing. It mimics an 8-speed dual clutch, and it's probably the best traditional CVT that I've driven. It can't launch very hard. It feels like an Outback CVT at the low end, but picks up nicely. And if you floor it from a stop, it actually does not do any mock gear changes, but through most driving, it does give you like 90% of the feel of going through gears. So if you absolutely must drive a 2-pedal version, I really don't think you'll be disappointed. The beating heart of the WRX is the all-wheel drive system. This is a mechanical setup. You have a viscous limited slip center differential that under normal conditions is running a 50-50 split. This will give you great traction in any season, and it's pivotal in giving the WRX the confidence that it has. No matter what the road surface looks like, this hugs the road, and the steering is extremely quick, so it can change direction pretty rapidly. It's very much a point-and-shoot experience, but you might want to firm things up for circuit use. On a back road, the brakes are also reassuring. They have a strong bite right now, but they are not designed for track use. That's where the new TS and the old TR come in. But if you do upgrade the stoppers, this does feel like it's ready for some more power, and Subaru has made sure that the engine can handle that. It should be pretty easy to add some power without hurting reliability too much. And if you leave it stock, this generation has been trustworthy so far, and the last car was also solid beyond some initial teething problems. For road trips, the gas mileage, premium fuel, and pronounced road noise are downsides, but you do have standard adaptive cruise with lane centering to help reduce fatigue. All of those aspects make this a great daily for the person who still wants strong performance or the ability to modify their car to their liking. Yet if you value fun or trackability over everyday usability, your money is better spent elsewhere, and that's why I've personally passed up the opportunity to buy one now on a couple of occasions. its softness doesn't mean body roll is terrible. It's actually a very confident car, as I've already said. But I don't feel much of a connection to the road. The steering is very precise. I think it's weighted well, but it doesn't really build up in weight. And feedback is very limited. The transmission is clunky when you hustle it. The engine doesn't like to rev either. I do think it's quick enough, but I don't find it all that satisfying beyond the speed, and even there, it's a notch slower than the GR Corolla. And in order to get equivalent brakes to the Toyota, you'd need to spend $47,000, and you're still down on power without limited slip front and rear diffs. Plus, as the premium becomes more expensive and we lose the base trim, the argument of speed for the money is growing weaker. It feels like Subaru is pushing WRX folks further up the pricing ladder, and I think that could cause this to lose some relevance. I don't want to be too negative here because this is such a good sports sedan for the real world. I also don't think that the premium or limited trims are bad values. I think the car still has a lot going for it, but bang for the buck used to be something that was a differentiating factor with the Subaru, and I just don't see that anymore. For instance, 5 years ago, you paid a couple grand more to get the WRX over a front drive Honda Civic SI. Now that number is about $6,000. For 2025, it feels like the Rex should be recognized for its forgiving, practical approach to performance and not the money or fun factor. Thanks for watching, and thank you to my channel members for helping me improve my video quality. Consider joining for additional content. I'll catch you in the next one.